More playa for the people, and more land for the people, more language for the people, and more culture.
Our story begins in Los Angeles, a land which at one time could only handle a limited population. Up until the 19th century, it only had about 100,000 people. Los Angeles really wanted to grow, but couldn't because they didn't have the water supply to be able to support a larger city. So the city of Los Angeles began exploring ways to bring water to the city from other locations. Fred Eaton, the former mayor of Los Angeles, was traveling north of LA in the Owens Valley, and while he was there enjoying the snow-capped mountains and the river which the runoff drained into, he had a vision. How big could Los Angeles grow if this vast water resource could be sent 250 miles to the south? William Mulholland was the manager of the Department of Water and Power, and he created the Los Angeles Aqueduct, going from the Owens Valley to Los Angeles, a monumental feat. Now millions of people live in Los Angeles. It is one of the largest cities in the world. But at what cost?
Here we are at the Owens Dry Lake, which is located 5 miles from the boundary of the Lone Pine Paiute Shoshone Reservation. 99 years ago, this was one of the largest natural lakes in California. Diversion of the Owens River by Los Angeles Department of Water and Power to supply that expanding city 233 miles to the south resulted in a virtually dry lake bed within 17 years. Blowing dust from the dry lake became the largest PM10 source in the country, as measured by the EPA, with dust clouds rising 10,000 feet in the air and reducing local visibility to zero. The resultant health effects were not tracked, but are undeniably persuasive. Some of the elements included in the airborne dust are arsenic, nickel, and cadmium.
We're looking at approximately 11 years of work that the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power has done in mitigating the dust from the Owens Dry Lake bed. It's very quiet out here, it's not a holiday, and I think what we're seeing is the result of the Los Angeles new management claiming that they are absolutely done working with the mitigation. Ron Nichols, who is the newest general manager for Los Angeles, declared a couple of months ago that he said, we're done, that we've gone above and beyond in our efforts to mitigate the dust. According to Great Basin Unified Air Pollution Control District, who is the regulatory agency overseeing the dust mitigation, Los Angeles has been able to, after 11 years, mitigate up to 90% of the dust. So we have, locally, we've seen a substantial improvement just in the quality of the air around the Lone Pine area. LADWP's attorney, Stuart Somack, was commenting on the use of water on the Owens Lake bed, and he said, the use of water as it exists out in Owens Lake, it can only be described as the most wasteful and shameful thing that is existing in California. Ron Nichols, the general manager, has claimed that we're done, we've gone above and beyond, they've fulfilled all of their responsibilities to the community and to the valley for dust mitigation. They've spent $1.2 billion just on these projects, and they do not want to spend any more money or any more of their water. It's quiet, there's no trucks, there's nothing going on here. This is it. They're done. As long as the wind doesn't blow.
The Big Pine Indian Reservation sits in a place that at one time had agriculture happening. The Big Pine Creek actually came down and fingered out into the valley, being able to provide a very lush environment. However, since the Department of Water and Power has found it important to move water from one locality to the other, it's really changed the way Big Pine looks, and especially where the Big Pine Indian Reservation sits, because the water no longer fingers down into the valley, but is actually just one conduit, and that conduit comes down straight into the river. Now what this has caused is a lot of areas that no longer have water going to them, and as a result, we're seeing the transformation from that which was a lush area into now a dust bowl. There was a springs at Fish Springs at one time. Groundwater pumping has caused the spring to go dry. As soon as pumps went on, grabbing water from the water table, the springs went dry, and they have not returned at all since pumping began. Currently, the Department of Water and Power has an exemption on pumping at the hatchery, and with that exemption, it doesn't matter how much environmental impact is caused there.
Hello, Enuma. Welcome to the pupfish ponds. These ponds were made for the endangered species today known as a pupfish. They were a staple in the Numa's diet hundreds of years ago, thousands of years ago. Today, the Bishop Paiute tribe is trying to keep them alive again. One thing, the uses of the pupfish was they were staples for the winter. Sometimes the winters are really harsh, so fall was a time of gathering. So one of the things they did was in the ancient irrigation systems in the creeks, they would cut them off and leave them with just ponds. And the ladies and the men and young people would use baskets and collect them. And then they would dry them out and then grind them up and save them for winter, and they would add them to their soups because the fish were really high protein, and then you had the calcium and all the vitamins from the fish, and that's why they were really of great use to the tribes.
The Owens pupfish were recently, in 1964, thought to be extinct. Earlier studies noted that these fish have been present here for thousands of years. These fish are a cultural and important mainstay of the tribe here. We thought we would try to enhance their recovery by increasing some water flow to this wetland area to help them populate the Owens Valley by themselves. In the past times, the fish were able to migrate up and down the Owens River, interbreed and intermingle. Now we're finding there's between all the conservation areas, the places where the fish are, which are very few, their levels, their species levels are declining. Their population levels are declining. And for this reason, it's very important to increase the number of conservation areas, increase the number of refuges like this within Owens Valley. And we're hoping that this project is a start to be hopefully a model to other landowners in Owens Valley to follow suit and enter into safe harbor agreements with the Fish and Wildlife Service to bring this species back from the brink of extinction and to have them thrive in all the habitats that they live in.
LADWP has a strong objection to the area because if the fish get out of these ponds and go down and get on their land, then they can't have an incidental take because they're threatened and endangered species. Los Angeles looks at it as a colonial resource, and that's a tough thing to have when you talk about colonizing an area, and then they own it. They don't want anything to bother their resource, and that's what we have to live with. And hopefully, as humanity and human rights go, somebody will step in and help us create a good home for these things. We have the ponds ready and waiting, and that's a good thing.
As you have seen through the experience of 3 tribal communities residing in the Owens Valley, the cost of moving water to LA has been immense. We now live in a valley with the worst air pollution in the U.S. We see springs, wetlands, and vegetation dry up before our eyes. And when we try to recover endangered species, which have coexisted with our people since time immemorial, we're challenged by Los Angeles. However, we will not give up our fight for the land, water, and air. Our environment needs us, and we need our environment. The Owens Valley is our home, and we're here to stay.
More power for the people, and more land for the people.